now. Hello and welcome to the Beyond Shakespeare podcast virtual exploring session. We are recording via the interweb all over the country and in fact the world. And hopefully this is going to be an exciting, innovating exploration of the Trial of Treasure, putatively by William, and I'm never entirely sure whether it's Wager or Wagger or Varga, I don't know. Putatively, printed around 1567, but again, I also don't have a more precise, plausible date when it might have been produced. It is an interlude split into, it's a new and merry interlude, newly set forth and never before this time imprinted, with 5 doubling down to 5 actors. We have slightly more than 5 actors for you today, so we split at least one of them into 2. And these wonderful actors are going to say hello to you now. So, looking around the room, first up, playing Sturdiness, Contentation, Visitation, and Time Itself is...
Hi, my name's Heydn McCabe, and I'm an actor from London, now based in Bury St Edmunds, Suffolk.
And taking one of the parts of the second actor in this 5-actor troupe, playing Lust, is...
Hi, my name's Simon Nader, and I'm a professional actor, teacher, and director, and I've never been so miscast.
And playing the other part that would normally be doubled together, playing Sapience and Consolation, new to the group, is...
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm from Stratford-on-Avon.
And taking up the 4th part, playing Elation, Trust, and Treasure itself, is...
Hi, I'm Liza Graham. I'm in London, actor and singer.
And finally, due to the terror of the approaching vice character, Inclination, played by...
Hi, I'm Stephen Longstaffe. I'm an early modern scholar.
And I don't know if I actually introduced myself. I try to remember to actually do this. Or have I not mentioned the third actor? Have I missed somebody out? Oh, I'm good at this. You can tell. I can add numbers up in my head and everything. Having skipped the third actor, performing the preface, Just, Pleasure, and Greedy Gut is...
Hello, I'm Sasha Cooper, and I'm a professional actress, dancer, and director and writer, and loads more besides in Brighton in the UK.
And as I say, I'm Robert Crighton, and I will be reading the stage directions. And just a little note for the listeners at home: the preparation of this text was very last minute, so there may be occasions where the actors have been very legitimately given stage directions to read as their part. That is not them doing a Corbyn strong message here moment. This is strictly down to formatting. I will try and jump in and make sure that nobody ends up doing that. I have hopefully identified most of them. We're going to read on for a reasonable chunk before we get into doing any chattage. The play opens not with a prologue, but with a preface, and that's an interesting question, precisely what this introduction is. It's also slightly oddly formatted because under the title, Do All Things to Edify the Congregation is placed, and I don't know whether that's just printed underneath the title as a general thing that one should do, or whether that's actually a line from the opening preface. I genuinely do not know. So I'm going to leave that entirely up to Sasha, who has the joy of reading the preface. But the play, The Trial of Treasure, will now begin.
Diogenes, which used a barrel for his house, being fled from his father to the city of Athens, comforted himself much in beholding the mouse, which desired neither castle nor hold for her defence. Concerning sustentation she made no difference, but ate whatsoever to her did befall, And touching her apparel, she had least care of all. This poor mouse's property, noted Diogenes, which oftentimes also he would have in sight. And though he were disciple unto Antisthenes, yet he learned of the mouse as much as he might. In the science of Sophie he had great delight. But concerning his state and outward condition, the most can declare, if you can make an inquisition. On a time he chanced accompanied to be with Alexander, which stood between him and the sun. Which requirest thou to have? Diogenes, quoth he, is there anything that by me may be done? I pray thee stand aside, and make a little room, quoth Diogenes, that the sun upon me may shine. Naught else require I of that is thine. He used to say, that as servants be obedient to their bodily masters, being in subjection, even so evil men that are not content are subjects and slaves to their lusts and affection. This lesson unto us may be a direction which way our inclination to bridle and subdue, namely, if we labour the same to eschew. Thus see you how little this philosopher esteemed the abundant possessions of this mundane treasure, which yet, notwithstanding, as these days is deemed to be the original and fountain of pleasure, this causeth lust to reign without measure, to which men are subjects, Diogenes doth say. Yet both lust and treasure in time weareth away. A philosopher is he that wisdom doth love, which before Pythagoras wise men were named. Now, Diogenes being wise, this doth approve that some men of this age ought as fools to be blamed. For where the one with treasure lack his life framed, the other travail, care, and labour with greediness, the same by all means to enjoy and possess. As lust with the if I can read this, as lust with the lust converteth to dust, and leaveth of force his pleasant prosperity, so treasure in time is turned to rust. As St. James in his epistle showeth the verity, hereof we purpose to speak without temerity. Therefore, our matter is named the trial of treasure, which time doth expel with all mundane pleasure. Both merry and short we purpose to be, and therefore require your pardon and patience. We trust in our matter nothing you shall see, that to the godly may give any offence. Though the style be barbarous, not fined with eloquence, yet our author desireth your gentle acception, and we the players likewise with all humiliation.
And considering that there weren't actual quotation marks breaking up some of the reported speech there, that was very nicely sight read. Thank you. Enter Lust, like a gallant, singing this song.
Hey ho, care away, let the world pass, for I am as lusty as ever I was. In flowers I flourish as blossoms in May. Hey ho, care away, hey ho, care away. What the devil ailed me to sing thus? I cry you mercy by my faith for entering. Most like I have ridden on the flying Pegasus, or in Cock Laurel's barge I have been a-venturing. Sing? Why? I would sing if it were to do again. With Orpheus and Amphion I went to school. What? Lads must be lively and attending on the train of Lady Delectation, which is no small fool. Hey, rouse, fill all the pots in the house. Tush, man, in good fellowship, let us be merry. This sounds like two people having a conversation to me, but no one.
I think you're working the audience. I think you're working the audience. You're they're sitting at the tables in front of you. You're nicking their beer.
Right. Perfect. Tush, man, in good fellowship, let us be merry. Gulp. Look up like a man, or it is not worth a louse. Hey ho, trolley. Hey, daddy, daddy. Ha, pleasant youth and lusty Juventus. In faith, it is good to be merry this May. For of man's living here there is no point, endentus. Therefore, a little mirth is worth much sorrow, some say.
Enter just.
But remember ye not the wise man's sentence? It is better in the house of mourning to be than in the house of laughter, where folly hath residence. For lightness with wisdom cannot agree, though many have pleasure in foolish fantasy, ensuing their inclination and lust. Yet much better is the life of one that is just. So, oh, sorry, lust.
No, that's
I
you,
think
sorry.
that might be a mistake.
That last speech was just.
That should be
There
just,
just
shouldn't
there
it?
just
Yeah.
isn't a speech heading.
Mm.
Oh, okay. I've not
Yeah.
even got that heading. Oh, that's
No,
bizarre.
it's my error due to the speed of turnaround. So enter just, and just speaks that line of dialogue. There will be some confusion because we have two characters on stage now called Lust and Just.
Haha.
You'll have fun keeping abreast of that as we go. So I'm going to ask Just if you can start that little speechette again, but remember ye not. So you've entered as Lust is doing his stand-up routine with the audience.
But remember ye not the wise man's sentence? It is better in the house of mourning to be than in the house of laughter, where folly hath residence. For light with wisdom cannot agree, though many have pleasure in foolish fantasy, ensuing their inclination and lust. Yet much better is the life of one that is just.
Sir, in this you seem against me to inveigh.
Nothing but reason, I think, I do say.
Marry, you shall have a nightcap for making the reason. Friend, have you not a piece of stockfish to sell? I would you had a dish of buttered peason. By my faith, your communication likes me well, but I beseech you, tell me, is not your name Just?
Yes, forsooth.
And my name, thou shalt understand, is Lust, and according thereto I am lusty indeed. But I think thou hast drunk of Morpheus' seed. Thou goest like a dromedary, dreamy and drowsy. I hold £20, the knave is lousy.
Mine apparel is not like unto thine, disguised and jagged of sundry fashion. Howbeit, it is not gold always that doth shine, but corrupting copper of small valuation. Too horrible besides is thy operation. Nothing more odious unto the just than the beastly desires of inordinate lust.
It is a shameful thing, as Cicero doth say, that a man his own acts should praise and commend. Hypocrites, accustom the like day by day, checking other men when they do offend.
Yea, but it is an hard thing, saith the philosopher, for a foolish man to have his manners reprehended. And even at this day it is come so far, God grant, for his mercy it may be amended. But tell a man friendly now of his fault, being blasphemy, pride, or vile fornication. He will be as presumptuous as Haman the Holt, and repay with revenge, or else defamation. Thus few men a friendly monition will bear, but stoutly persist and maintain their ill. And in noblemen's houses do I truly fear, there are too many hath such forward will.
Wounds and hearts, who can abide this? Nay, you vile villain, I will dress you therefore. Your lazy bones I pretend so to bless, that you shall have small lust to prate any more.
Behold the image of incipient fools. There are not a few even now of thy property. Until you be put into poverty's schools, ye will not forsake this foolish insolency.
Nay, soft, with thee I have not made an end. Draw out his sword.
Indeed, stage direction, draw out his sword.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. It's the formatting.
Didn't quite go with the rhyme.
The just against lust must always contend. Therefore, I propose to wrestle with thee. Put it up! Who shall have the victory? Straightway we shall see.
When thou wilt, by his flesh I shall hold the wag. Wrestle, and let lust seem to have the better at the first.
I know that lust useth not little to brag.
Thou shalt find me as mighty as Samson the strong.
Yea, the battle of lust endureth long.
Wounds and flesh, I was almost down on my back, but yet I will wrestle till my bones crack, stay, and then spack.
The end of thy presumption now doth appear.
Yet do what thou canst, I will not lie here. No, by his wounds, you old doting knave.
And we'll pause there. So
it's all
we're
not
in the middle of a
strange.
wrestling match throughout all of that, being thrown about left, right, and centre. And the stage direction next is cast him and let him arise again.
Thinkest thou that lust will be made a slave? I shall meet you in Smithfield or else otherwhere. By his flesh and blood, I will thee not forbear.
Not of my power I do thee expel, but by the might of his spirit that dwelleth in me. Inordinate lust with the just may not dwell, and therefore may not I accompany thee.
Well, Goodman just, it is no matter, but in faith I pretend not with thee to flatter. Though from thy company depart I must, I shall live as much in wealthiness, I trust.
And he goes out, and the additional "he must drive him out" is an additional stage direction there. So I'm really interested by this whole wrestling match between Lust and Just, which just feels very, very odd and very interesting. I'm fascinated by this. We will discuss it a little later. Just is left alone.
Where most wealth is and most delectation, there lust is commonly of most estimation. For whereas wealth wanteth, idleness doth slake. For where idleness is, lust partayeth the stake. Thus have you seen the conflict of the just, which all good men ought to use and frequent. For horrible are the fruits of inordinate lust, which in some case resembleth Hydra the serpent, whose head being cut off, another riseth incontinent. So, one of lust's cogitations being cut away, there riseth up another, yea, many we may say. It is requisite, therefore, that every degree against that his lust both strife and contend, and though at the first he seems sturdy to be, the Lord will convince him for you in the end. Your cause unto him therefore wholly commend, labouring to avoid all inordinate lust, and to practice in life to live after the just.
And exit Just. So we've had an interesting introduction. We've had this fascinating battle of wits and physically the battle of Lust and Just. However, we are, whatever our opinions on Lust and Just, we move on to something a little more different. Enter Inclination, the vice.
I can remember, since no ship was made and builded on Salisbury plain, the same year the weathercock of Paul's caught the pip, so the Bowbell was like much woe to sustain. I can remember, I'm so old, since Paradise gates were watched by night, and when that Vulcanus was made a cuckold among the great gods, I appeared in sight. Nay, for all you smiling, I tell you true. No, you will not know me now. The mighty on earth I do subdue. Tush, if you'll give me leave, I'll tell you how. Now, in good faith, I care not greatly, though I declare my daily increase. But then these gentlewomen will be angry, therefore I think best to hold my peace. Nay, I beseech you, let the matter stay, for I would not for £20 come in their hands, for if there should chance to be but one Delilah by the mass, they would bind me in Samson's bands. But what mean I first with them to begin, seeing that in all men I do remain, because that first I remained Eve within. Oops, sorry, skipping. Sorry about that. Unruly fingers. Because at first I remained Eve within, and after her Adam, and so forth to Cain, I perceive by your looks my name you would know. Well, you're not ignorant of that, I dare say. It is I that do guide the bent of your bow, ruleth your actions also day by day. Forsooth I am called Natural Inclination, which bred in old Adam's fostered bones, so that I'm proper to his generation, I will not away, with casting of stones. I make the stoutest to bow and bend. Again, when I lust, I make men stand upright. From the lowest to the highest I do ascend, drawing them to things of natural might.
Enter here Lust and Sturdiness singing this song. I'm going to suggest alternating rhymes here. So Lust first, Sturdiness second line, and then onwards.
Where is the knave that so did rave?
Oh, that we could find him. We would make him for fear to quake.
That lout of lobbish kind.
No, that's yours.
My name is Lust, and let him trust.
That I will have redress.
For thou and I will make him fly.
My old friend Sturdiness.
Lovely. There seems to be some kind of logic. Maybe it's a case that Sturdiness should read the first 4 lines and
then
Lust
other
the
way,
second 4. I think that might be how it's structured. However, we will crack on.
Where is now that valiant Hercules? For all his brags, he is now run away.
By the guts of Goliath, it is best for his ease, for he was like for the pottage to pay.
So what bragging knaves have we here? Come ye to convince the mightiest conqueror? It was I that before you now doth appear, which brought to confusion both Hector and Alexander. Look on this leg, ye prating slaves. I remember since it was no greater than a tree. At that time I had a couple of knaves much like unto you that waited on me.
Cock's precious soul, let us conquer the knave.
By his flesh and sides, a good courage I have. Stand you therefore a little aside, and ye shall see me quickly abate the fool's pride. Draw out the sword, make him put it up, and then strike him.
Exactly. I'm afraid that was the stage direction. I wasn't quite quick enough in there.
Yes.
So you draw out the sword, you make him put him up, and then strike him. Look in your spectacles. I'm slightly confused as to what's going on. We will discuss this in a moment. Liza, do you have a thought?
I think look in your spectacles might be a line of dialogue after the stage direction. Who knows?
Okay, well, let's try it that way. Let's go back a few lines. Sturdiness, could you start your bit again?
Yeah. By his flesh and sides, a good courage I have. Stand you therefore a little aside, and ye shall see me quickly abate the fool's pride.
He draws out his sword, makes to put it up, and strike him.
Look in your spectacles.
Hey, I dare not if thou look so big. What should such a boar fight with a pig? Put up thy sword, man. We will agree. So lo, do so much as bear that for me.
Nay, by his art then, I will you dress.
Be good in thine office, gentle friend Sturdiness. But though thou and I do seem to contend, yet we are, and must be, friends till the end.
Come, give me thy hand, I besew thy heart.
Nay, you must take all things in good parts. Who standeth yonder? Captain Lust?
Yea, marry.
Oh, no remedy then, to him go I must. You have forgot, I dare say, your old friend Inclination. Let's renew acquaintance again for cock's passion.
Why, man, our acquaintance hath been of old. I am yours at commandment, therefore be bold. For lust can do nothing without inclination, chiefly in matters concerning a pleasant vocation.
Indeed, lust may be taken for a thing indifferent, except inclination be joined thereunto. But when I have once revealed my intent, as I will men to work, so commonly they do.
Ye have heard of the combat between me and Just?
Yea, marry, I heard say that you lay in the dust.
What say ye?
Neither one nor other. You may me trust.
Of mine honesty, my company he utterly refused, and in wrestling with me he gave me the foil, saying that I had myself and other abused, leading men in perplexity and marvellous toil.
Oh, by Gog's wound, if we had found him here, we should by his flesh have abated his cheer.
I perceive, Sturdiness, thou art no fool. Tell me, the fellowship, where wentest thou to school?
What, to read or write?
Nay, to swear and fight, for I think thou canst neither write, read, nor spell. But in swearing and fighting thou dost excel.
Thou knowest what I am joined with lust, and sturdy by nature I am in like case. What, let the world wag, all cannot be just, some must natural inclination embrace.
All men just? No. I remember the sentence of Tully, that no man is just that fear death, poverty, or pain, which I do fear all, and that marvellously. For fortune is variable, I do perceive plain, and notwithstanding that Felix possessed great gain, yet when Paul preached of the judgment day, he trembled for fear, and bade him go away.
Doth such passions often trouble your mind?
Nay, not often, but sometime I do them find. But then, to the intent to drive them away, I either go to sleep, or else to some play.
By Gog's precious are, even so do I. But sometimes they cumber me persistently, or
Well,
pestilently even.
Master Lust, such dumps to eschew, my advice and request you must needs ensue, that is, to become disciple to Dr. Epicurus, and then you shall have mirth by measure and overplus. Tush, I know a couple companions in store that were marvellous meat for you evermore. I wish you had known you unto them.
Well then, call them in.
Here they come, each of them in a knave's skin.
Enter Elation and Greedy Gut. They sing.
Want to start, Sasha?
Sure. With lust to live is our delight,
In high estate and dignity,
seeing that the just put us to flight.
let them alone in misery.
Nay, they be lusty lads, I tell you.
What? Inclination! Methought I did smell you. Give me thy hand ere we further go.
No, welcome in faith, and Greedy God also. So are none of you both acquainted with lust?
Yes, that they have been, both of them, I trust. Welcome, sirs, in faith, welcome unto me.
By my troth, I am glad your mastership to see in health and prosperity as presently you be.
Come, Faye, so am I wod with all me heart.
Sorry.
This cow-bellied knave, sir.
Got it. This cow-bellied knave does come from the cart. I teach you to speak. I hold you abound. Get she, love, get she down to the ground.
She can make Urchy wear the no.
Thou are a gold knave, or I'll make ye to bow. The great-bellied lout, methink, cannot bend. They're so low, he begins to amend.
Well, sirs, now I remember Aesop's advice, which he gave to the Samies against King Croesus. Therefore, it is good to be witty and wise, and being in liberty to keep me still thus, I cannot abide a life that is dull or rust. And seeing that my name is properly Lust, I hate the conversation of the just.
Well, Master Lust, first join you to me, Inclination. Next here, with Sturdiness, you acquaint. Turn you about and embrace Elation. And that wealth may increase without any restraint. Join you with Greedy Gut here in our presence, that all these in you may have prosperous influence.
And bows to the ground.
Out, alas! What a sudden passion is this! I am so taken that I cannot stand. The cramp hath touched me, and I shall die without remedy now, out of hand.
Boy, my matins, cheese, our master is sick.
Stand back, Nickel Noddy with the pudding prick. more brains in thy skin than wit in thy brain, such greedy gut in faith would be slain. This cramp does signify nothing in effect. None of all your counsels he will now reject, and therefore fear not to make full declaration. But how? He is bowed to me. Inclination.
And fear not the force of these that be just, but labour yourself to advance and augment. Be jocund and lively, since if your name is lust, and then you shall easily obtain your reward.
Esteem yourself always equal with the best, and seek for promotion, power, and dignity. It is good when men may live as they lust, and unto the just bear hate and malignity.
Oh, sir, ye must be greedy to catch it and to claw.
Well said, greedy gut, as wise as a door.
Eat up at a mouthful houses and lands.
There's a vengerable mouth too.
And he gapes, and the vice gapes.
Never fear God, nor the governor's law, but gripe greedily all that cometh in your hands. By the mass, but you howlet is pestilent witty. What guttish greediness the Ulstern can teach, that thou art not erected in faith, it is pity, as high as 3 trees and an altar will reach.
Marry, sirs, but your counsels have set me on fire. Hey, lusty lad, how fresh am I now? Lead me, Inclination, to have my desire, and then at thy request I will ever bend and bow.
He that bendeth to follow his own inclination must live a wicked and vile conversation. But so, Master Lust, I will lead you to a place where you shall have pleasure enough in short space.
Yea, but shall not this company go thither?
Yea, marry, we 4 will all go together. But Sturdiness shall tarry to face out the matter, if just peradventure against you shall clatter.
Oh, by the mass, and well said. But first, let us sing.
I must tune my pipes first, by drinking.
Hush, what then, I pray thee, help us apart.
Yes, sir, I will sing the treble with all my heart.
And
no one wants to start.
And no one wants to start.
Lust shall be led by inclination
To carnal cogitation.
Where lust is wholly led by me.
We must fall to liberty.
for carnal cares shall him assail.
And speedily they shall prevail.
I Sturdiness will face it out.
In his cause, sturdy, stiff, and stout.
Then greedy God shall make him eat.
Both house and lands like bread and meat.
Elation shall buff him I.
For to aspire above the sky.
Then natural and lordly lust
Shall with his power despise the just.
Our song is ended. Hast thou other in store?
Shall not have done this half hour and more. Yet I will, now I remember. Come in, Lust, that I go before is but needful and just. You shall be now led by me, Inclination, to reason and talk with carnal cogitation.
Is there more vanity under the sun than to be inclined after this sort? Well, lust doth now, as others have done, yea, and do day by day esteeming it a sport. This lust is the image of all wicked men, which in seeking the world have all delectation. They regard not God nor his commandments 10, but are wholly led by their own inclination. First to inculcate with carnal cogitation, and after to the desire of all worldly treasure, which alone they esteem the fullness of pleasure. With elation or pride he is also associate, which puffeth up his sense with presumption pestilent. Then greedy gut maketh them continually to grate. on the mock of this world that he thinketh permanent. I, Sturdiness, do hear how all things have been. Thus see you how men that are led by their lust descend from the virtuous, goodly, and just.
And there we'll take a bit of a break and sort of take stock of where we are. We've lost a couple of people from the room, but lovely messages have been sent on the chat. So we will continue forward in a moment. Again, we've got this playing with the audience constantly. These various vice figures, and so far we've only really got. I mean, the fact that Inclination is called the vice, but pretty much apart from just. Everybody's a vice. And we've got so many songs. The songs are clearly supposed to be broken down to match characters singing certain lines, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. That's not the end of the world. Yeah, and Sturdiness there is obviously talking that long speech to give everybody a chance to exit, even though no exit for them is actually indicated, so that Just and Sapience can enter in a moment. I'm assuming that Sturdiness is not either of them. No, he is not, which sort of helps. Thoughts from the room from what we've almost halfway through about where we are and what we think. Silence.
There is silence.
Yeah, I don't think there's that much to it, really. Sorry, go ahead, Liza.
Well, usually when a vice, I was thinking about the dialogue earlier between lust and just, and usually when a vice threatens to fight with a virtue, the virtue will say, "No, I am peaceful. You know, fighting is for terrible people." But the point is that you have to wrestle with your lust. You have to wrestle with it and subdue it. Yeah. So just becomes a bit like a superhero. And if I were directing this, I'd probably put him in a Superman costume.
I really like that as an idea. Yeah, because it's such a physically dynamic thing. I mean, it is the shame that we're only able to do this as text because there's so much choreography that would be going on with Just and Lust there. I mean, who is Just? I mean, is that justice or what?
I'd say so, especially as the way Just talks. It's very much what you'd expect, you know, if we are going down the road of wrestling with your vices, so to speak. You know, it is quite an interesting but comical exploration of what we would do potentially if we are struggling with our own sort of inner demons, weaknesses, and all that kind of stuff. In this instance, you know, lust is obviously just oh yeah, I want that, you know, it can be all sorts of different levels to that, but just or justice is very much about balancing that out and making sure you stay on the right track, for instance. So could be.
I'm just also wondering, because you know we were talking earlier, you know, we were doing quite early interludes, Tudor interludes, where there's a very clear focus and a very clear focus to the message, and it seems almost here that we've got all the conventions without the focus of precisely knowing what message we're trying to drive home here. It seems awfully vague.
I was saying at the top, I didn't really feel it's about much. It's really just as Sasha just said there, I think, just like wrestling with one's vices and doing the moral thing one assumes by the end.
Yes, and we'll see. I think we'll see where that's going to go, because there's a lot of life to this. You know, there's singing and dancing and the various you know, naughty figures. I can't even really call them, you know, sins. You know, they don't seem to be desperately dangerous, unless I'm just not reading it right. They don't seem to be.
Temptation, but no fulfillment.
Yeah. I mean, there's all these physical challenges. you know, the bowing and
Oh yeah,
the
I
sort
guess
of exercise routine.
yeah. Lust, I guess, lust bows under the weight of all of the elation, all of the others. It's interesting. Sturdiness. You would think of sturdiness as a virtue, but I think he's more like persistence, like
Rigidity, maybe.
yeah,
Mm.
persistence in doing evil or something.
Or it's just, yes, the inflexibility of being, and that you're not willing to compromise or things. How are you finding the vice or the pronounced vice of inclination or thoughts? There's some lovely reading there, I have to say.
I think you really miss an audience, don't you, with this sort of thing? You know, there's so much there. You're kind of a ringmaster, or at least you think you are. But at the same time, there is this kind of element of sort of chaotic element as well. You know, the plans are not necessarily going to work out the way you imagine. But it's yeah. I mean, you can make a real pig of yourself with this part, can't you? I mean, that's the point, I think. You know.
And then we've got the greedy gut, who is of course a country bumpkin, professed by the writing of the language there of being terribly uar. And we've got that kind of rustic dialogue, and think we've done this with Gamma Gurton's Needle. It turns up in Res Publica. The people in Res Publica are written exactly like this. Oh, I see. So it does seem to be a type that's quite well established by now, and you know, and in many ways doesn't change, because it's still a very recognisable yokel kind of accent, kind of thing. Somersetshire, slightly north of Ambridge,
the thing with the big mouths is that's a kind of conventional sign of a jester or a fool.
Yeah.
They very often do this thing, sort of thing. There's a stage dialect where the pair of them do it, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
That gaping.
I think there's a reference to Tarleton doing that in the later period.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think we might have done that as one of the jests. We have been doing jest books, and I certainly his physical action is frequently referred to as quite grotesque, and he was quite a physical comic. So yeah, it seems to be part of the repertoire of this particular actor, presumably. But I think it's time to crack on and see where this goes. I'm sure you're all excited to find out what Justice and Sapience is going to be doing now. And just checking the doubling here, because we have lost our substitute Simon. So I will read in Sapience for now. So we're going to go from that point with Justice and Sapience. The advice of Aristippus have in your mind, which willed me to seek such things as be permanent, and not such as are of a vanishing kind, for the one with the other is not equivalent. Be circumspect, therefore, foreseeing and sapient, for treasures here gotten are uncertain and vain, but treasures of the mind do continually remain.
This is the mind of Musinous, also I remember, like as presently you have advertised me, for the which I cannot but thankfully render such commendations as is requisite to be. And as your name is Sapience, thus much I see, that on heavenly wisdom you do depend, and not on as time doth bring to an end.
Truth indeed, and therefore your name being just with me and my documents must be associate, where contrary, such as are but led by their lust to incline evil, are always appropriate. They have not, as you have, battle and combat against the cogitations that inwardly spring, but rather are obedient unto the same thing. And this is the occasion that men are so ambitious and so foolish, led by the lust of their brain, sometime to covet, sometime to be vicious, sometime the counsel of the wise to disdain, sometimes to climb till they fall down again, sometimes to usurp the possessions of others, sometime to disobey both father and mother.
Alas, what availeth it riches to enjoy, though as much in comparison as Croesus the king? What helpeth it to have Helen in Troy, if the conscience of man continually sing? Elation and pride no commodity doth bring, but is often known the forerunner of shame, and the blot of immortal memory and fame.
And here enters Inclination, the vice.
Now, by my halidom, it is a loner. Better sport in my life I never saw. It is trim, I tell you, to dance with John and Jonah. We pass not a point for God, nor his law. Lust is lusty and full of porridge. Cogitation and he in one bed doth lie. When here is Master Just with his cankered courage. And old doting Sapience. Then I am dressed, I. So often already Just hath me restrained that I dare not entice him any more. For through Sapience he hath me clearly disdained, that my courage is spent, and I have no more.
And at this point, Inclination sort of makes to go away. So that's. Could I just ask you to do that that last line again, please, of Inclination? Make to go away, as you say it.
Through Sapience he hath me clearly disdained, that my courage is spent, and I have no more.
Nay, soft, sir. We must talk with you ere ye go.
Well, I cannot tarry at this time. The truth is so.
Nay, there is no remedy. With you we must talk.
By the body of me I hold best that I walk, or else learn to speak language another while, and so I may happen the knave to beguile.
Turn back ere you go. We have somewhat to say.
Hmm.
Non parle pas français, non parle pas.
To deceive us now himself he doth prepare.
Ich en geen English spreken van waar. Body of me, let me go, or else I shall piss. Yes, Master Just, you have loved me ere this, therefore now be ruled after my counsel. Godly things for your commodity I shall you tell.
Let him that is just not lightly ensue his vile inclination and carnal concupiscence, but let him rather contend the same to subdue, and chiefly those that have knowledge of Sapience. Therefore bridle this lust, do your diligence, his crafty provocations utterly to restrain, that just may live while life doth remain.
Goodman Hannibal, speak you in earnest? What dost thou say? Shall they just bridle me? No, no, brother Snaps, do the worst and the best. I will not be bridled of him nor of thee.
Seeing Sapience consisteth in heavenly document, and that heavenly document consisteth in Sapience. To bridle this rich I cannot but consent, sith I of his purpose have had oft intelligence.
Yet again, to bridle it doth not prevail. I will not be bridled of the best of you both. See you this gear? Here's one will make you quail. Stand back. To kill you, Master Just, I would be loath. You've been so burned and fried of late that it were pity to hurt you any more. Back, I say, or my dagger shall about your pate. By the master I will, sir, I'll make your bones sore.
And they struggle 2 or 3 times. 2 or 3, no more, no less.
Aha. I will bridle thee, beast, for all thy bragging.
Yea, faith, goodman Just, I'll hold you wagging. Nay, brother, you shall find me a cursed colt to bridle. Nay, faith, better yet, I'll make thee to struggle.
Never leave him, but ensue the counsel of Sapience.
Lo now, I have brought him under obedience.
Having bridled him.
Not so obedient as thou thinkest me to have. Nay, brother, you shall find me a coltish knave. Hey! It's good for you to hold fast. I will kick and winch while the life doth last.
Thou shalt kick indeed, but no victory win, neither to conquer the just, to ungodliness nor sin.
Oh yes. I will make a proclamation.
What shall that be?
If you will give me leave, then you shall see. Oh, yes. Is there any man or woman that hath lost a gambling gelding with a grey tail? Let him come to the crier and pay for his cost, and he will tell him tidings without any fail.
To the intent that you may him sharply restrain, let him not enjoy so much of the rain. And Sapience bridles him shorter.
God's soul, now the snaffle cutteth my lip, and with this lubbly lave add the pip. I shall leap no hedges while this bridle is on. Out, alas, I think it will fret me to the bone.
Thus should every man that will be called just bridle and subdue his beastly inclination, that he in the end may obtain perfect trust, the messenger of God, to give him sight, to give sight till salvation.
That trust to obtain with him I have struggled.
Then let us depart and leave this beast bridled. And we
both.
go out, leaving him alone.
May the devil go with you, and his dun dame. Such horse masters will make a colt quickly tame. I would he were hanged that this snaffle did make. It make my chaps so shamefully to ache. You have no pity on me, you, I see, by your laughing. I care not greatly if I fall to gambling. Way! Come aloft, I say. Beware the horse heels. I advise you stand away. The rein of my bridle is tied so short, I cannot make you any more sport. But though I be bridled now of the just, I doubt not I shall be unbridled by lust. And let not just think, but I will rebel, though he bridle me 10 times all well. Though nature saith, one doomed with a croach, who are not nigh long, but incontinent approach, even so, though that I be bridled a while, the colt will at length the courser beguile.
Enter Greedy Gut running and catch a fall.
Chill, man. Chill, run I as fast as I can. Sirs, did none of you see a man? Chams in haste from my muster lust, so at inclination needs come to him must.
Where is he now? I pray thee tell me.
Why, what have we here? Oh, Jesus benedicti! I owe 20 pound it's Balaam's ass. Nay, 'tis a colt I see his tail by the mass.
Am I a colt? Nay, thou liest like a knave. Somewhat for thy labour now thou shalt have.
Oh, lousy jade, must ye kick?
Who ever saw such a desperate dick? Why, greedy guts, dost thou not know inclination?
Body of me, who has dressed thee in that fashion? Thou wert bridled for voicing no indeed. Sirrah, Master Lusters would have thee make speed.
I'm bridled, I, even as thou dost see. Therefore desire him to come and help me.
Marry, together with greediness now he is bent. He have had long talk with carnal cogitation, and is set on fire by the means of elation, so that he is so lusty he cannot abide. Therefore one or other for him must be spied.
Oh, greedy gut, I pray thee, go and make haste.
Josh, fear not. Still spend no time in waste.
I'd rather than 40 pence that he were come. If I be bridled long, I shall be undone, so sharp is this snaffle, called restraint. Maketh me sweat, I am so faint. Hark, I hear the voice of my master Lust. Now I shall be unbridled shortly, I trust.
Yes, and enter Lust.
Cock's precious wounds, here hath been villainy.
They have used me with too much villainy. That old knave Sapience so counsel just, but let me be unbridled, good master Lust.
And he unbridles him.
Lo, now thou art unbridled, be of good cheer.
By a lady, I am glad I have gotten thus clear. But hark you, master Lust, if I may do you pleasure.
Yes, and that's a stage direction, whisper, whisper. There's another whisper coming up in a moment. So do mock theatrical whisper noises, please.
She is called Treasure. Oh, My heart is on fire till she come in place.
Oh, Master Lost, she hath an amiable face, a tricker, a trimmer in faith that she is, the goddess of wealth, prosperity, and bliss.
But think you that this minion long endure shall?
Forever and ever, man, she is immortal. There be many other, but she exceedeth them all.
What be they? Have you their names in store?
Yea, hark in your ear, whispers, and many other more.
Sith that the apple of Paris before me is cast, and that I may deliver the same where I will, I would Prometheus were here to help me hold fast, that I might have a forward with me ever still. Pallas, I consider, in science hath skill, but Juno and Venus good will do I bear, therefore to give the apple I know not where.
Be counselled by me. Give it Lady Treasure. It shall be for your commodity in the end without measure. For having the company of this minion lass, you shall never want the society of Pallas, Juno, nor yet the omnipotent Mars. Do not restrict your strength, be they never so fierce. And as for Venus, you shall have her at pleasure, for she is bought and sold always with treasure. She of her power hath whole countries conquered. The most noble champions by her have been murdered. Acon, for her sake, was stoned to death. Tush, innumerable, at this day, spend their breath. Some hang or be hanged, they love her so well. She is the great goddess, it is true that I tell.
Which way should I work of her to have a sight?
Aye, inclination will lead you thither right, but we must have greedy gut, and also elation.
They are at the house of carnal cogitation.
Whither I would wish that we might depart. I will lead you thither with all my heart.
Okay, and it doesn't say exit, but it does suggest that you are going to you are exiting there. Am I right by the logic of who must come on?
I'd say
that you must exit there. I would have thought. So many things. I think all houses of ill repute should be called the House of Carnal Cogitation. I think that is a fabulous thing to put on a sign above a building. There's a real resonance in my mind of the line a tricker, a trimmer in faith that she is. Talking about treasure, it really reminds me of one of the Robin Hood pageants, a pricker, a prancer, a terror of sheets, a wagger of ballocks when other maid sleeps. There's just something about that, having fun with these things. Lady Treasure. So is this the trial of treasure the title refers to? We shall see.
How are you going to sing this one, darling?
We'll negotiate that one in a moment. It's a very worthy song, I think. It's more like a hymn, I suspect. Is that because that's for the entrance of just, trust, and contentation? So
yeah. Okay.
we'll go sang a bit religiously. It's really interesting. You're right, because the moment they bridle inclination, which is again just and Sapience are very aggressive and insistent, and they bridle him, and it's the moment inclination is unbridled that lust suddenly goes, right, I need to go to a house of ill repute. That's a really, really interesting bit of business. It's so excessive, actually, that the good characters are so proactive, as Liza was talking earlier. I mean, it really is really interesting. Thoughts from the room? Sorry.
Yeah, this play is full of really interesting physical metaphors that, yes, I noticed at the beginning that the dialogue is a little bit more cerebral than in a lot of other plays like this, but at the same time, there's more action. So that's kind of a gift to a director, I think.
Yes, it's you're giving with one hand and paying for it with another, with the physical comedy. And the part I read would have been doubled with lust, so it would have been the same actor nipping off and then coming off and doing a very, very different character. And all that whispering business is really interesting.
Yes.
There's very dangerous inclinations bit as well when he's talks to the audience, and I say, "I see by your laughing," and I'm going, "Well, it depends what the house is like."
Yeah.
Does a bit. I think it's one of those texts that's going to change each time with a different audience. I gather as well. So you could direct it so that yes, okay, it's doubling up all these different characters, but you'd need actors who are flexible and strong enough to take on, you know, anything that the audience is going to give them. It's like if you're doing a comedy show, you don't know what the audience is going to get. You don't know what the audience is going to be like. So naturally, you use the text to, as we've already seen, either rile them up or at least, oh, come on, calm yourself down, and it, you could almost play it like a comedy sketch.
I think you're right. I think where it does go, in inverted commas, a bit worthy and a bit messagey, it's accompanied with a wrestling match or a fight. So at no point is the audience overly preached at, which we do sometimes find with other plays, where we suddenly get, and here's the sermon. I'm not saying there won't be a sermon, but there hasn't been one so far. Even the opening was actually relatively light and frothy. It was had a really nice cadence, that prefix.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's to maybe, I don't know if scholarly people might disagree, feel free, but is it therefore to connect more with perhaps the common man, more relatable or more kind of farcical, almost like a kind of a dumb show, if you will?
Okay, I'm gonna risk the duck here, but in the works,
I just walk away.
in the works of a certain other playwright, right? When you have a couple instances where there's a pageant or an interlude organized by the local schoolmaster, and this is what this reads like a bit. It reads as though it was written with someone impressed with their own cleverness, but trying to appeal to the groundlings.
Yeah, I think we're in danger of assuming that the more rarefied audience of the court or schools or any of these institutions were ever above a fart joke or anything like that. The broad strokes of the comedies runs eternally through theatre. I don't see any class differentiation there. That doesn't mean to say you're not right. It's just not necessarily as obvious as it might be today. There's that bit with mentioning Balaam's ass. We always like a bit of mentioning Balaam's ass. There's only one dramatic depiction of Balaam's ass that I know of. I think it's in Chester. It's one of the few stories from the Bible that doesn't get a decent crack of the whip in mystery cycles that I've noticed.
Actually, good point.
It does get, because it's a wonderful pantomime. It's a talking horse, basically. So when he comes on and says, it's Balaam's ass, he's bridled. It's a lovely crossover. I don't think anybody apart from Chester actually or is surviving has played with it.
Not quite.
Right, we're past the halfway mark now. We're rapidly heading towards the end. We'll definitely pause at least once. So we have a song coming up. I think it's perfectly safe to say that I think Contentation should sing it. That would be fab. You can do all of it. That would be lovely. Because I'm kind and generous. Silence there from Contentation.
I'm just waiting for the go. Are you ready?
Lovely. I'll read the stage direction and we'll rattle on. So we have enter just, trust, and contentation. Trust a woman plainly apparelled, and contentation kneel down and sing. She has a crown.
So happy is the state of those that walk upright and just, that thou, Lord, dost thy face disclose by perfect hope and trust. Their inclination thou dost stay, and sendest them sapience, that they should serve and obey the high magnificence. and send us contentation, that we in thee may rest. Their fair walk our adoration, to thee pertaineth best.
God careth for his, as the prophet doth say, and preserveth them under his merciful wings, namely the just, that his will do obey, observing his holy commandment in all things, not for our sake or for our deservings, but for his own sake openly to declare that all men on earth ought to live in his fear.
How God hath blessed you all men may see. For first at your entrance you conquered lust, not by your power, but by might of the deity, as all persons ought to do that be just. Then through Sapience, which God did you send, you bridled that brutish beast Inclination, and also ordered you with Contentation.
Those that are contented with their vocation be thankful to God. This is a true consequence. And those that be thankful in their conversation cannot but please the Lord God omnipotent. But those that be sturdy, proud, and disobedient, the ruler of all rulers will them confound, and rot their remembrances off from the ground.
When Solon was asked of Croesus the king, what man was most happy in this vale terrestrial, to the end he seemeth to attribute that thing when men be associate with treasures celestial. Before the end can no man judge, he doth say that any man is happy that here beareth breath. But then by his end prettily judge we may. Thus true happiness consisteth, saith he, after death. If this be a truth, as undoubtedly it is, what men are more foolish, wretched, and miserable than those that in treasures accompt their whole bliss, being infect with ambition, that sickness incurable? Ah, wicked Adrastia, thou goddess deceivable, thus to pluck from men the sense of their mind, so that no contentation therein they can find.
The treasures of this world we may well compare to Circe's, the witch with her crafty cautility, wherewith many men's minds so poisoned are that quite they are carried into all fidelity. They are conjured indeed and bewitched so sore that treasure is their trust, joy and delight. True trust is expelled, they pass not therefore, and against contentation they continually fight. But though wicked men follow their lust, crying, on earth is our felicity and pleasure, yet God doth so guide the hearts of the just, that they respect chiefly the celestial treasure.
Alas, should we not have that estimation which God hath prepared for his dear elect? Should not our minds rest in full contentation, having trust in this treasure most high in respect? Saint Paul, whom the Lord so high did erect, saith, it passeth the sense of our memory and mind, much less can our outward eyes the same find. And as for treasures which men possess here, through fickleness of fortune soon fadeth away. The greatest of renown and most worthy peer sometime falleth in the mind to misery and decay. Record of Dionysus, a king of much fame, of the valiant Alexander and Caesar the strong. Record of Tarquinius, which Superbus had to name, and of Heliogabalus, that minister with wrong. If I should recite all, I should stand very long, but these be sufficient plainly to approve how soon by uncertainty this treasure doth remove.
It is true. Therefore, the mind well content is great riches, as the wise King Solomon doth say. We have seen of late days this canker pestilent corrupting our realm to our great decay. Ambition, I mean, which chiefly did reign among those that should be example to others. We saw how their brethren they did disdain, and burned with fire the child with the mother. It is often seen that such monsters ambitious as spare not to spill the blood of the innocent will not greatly stick to become seditious. The determination of God thereby to prevent, God grant every one of us earnestly to repent, and not to set our minds on this fading treasure, but rather wish and will to do the Lord's pleasure.
O ye emperors, potentates, and princes of renown, learn of just, with trust yourselves to associate, that like as your vocation by right doth ask the crown, and also due obedience being the appointed magistrate, so rule that at the last you may be resuscitate, and reign with the Almighty with perfect continuance, receiving double crowns for your godly governance. Ye noblemen whom God hath furnished with fame, be mindful to walk in the ways of the just. Add virtue evermore to your honorable name, and be not overcome of concupiscence or lust. Flee from love of treasure, catch hold of me, trust, and then double felicity at the last you shall possess. In all earthly doings God shall give you success. Ye poor men and commons, walk well in your vocation. Banish lust and desire, which is not convenient. Let trust work in you a full contentation, considering that it leadeth to treasures more excellent. For these are uncertain, but they are most permanent. Your necessity supply with virtue and trust, and then shall you enjoy your crown among the just.
As I, being properly nominate just, am here associate with contentation, so have I my whole felicity in trust, who illumineth mine eyes to see my salvation.
Fear ye not, shortly you shall have consolation. If I were once grown in you to perfection, even thus goeth it always with the children of election.
I will depart now. Will ye go with me, trust?
I will do, yea, I must always associate the just.
A psalm of thanksgiving first let us sing to the Lord and praise of the immortal King.
Here, if you will, sing the man is blessed that feareth God, etc., and go out. Yes, I put in the chat, I don't know if any of you saw, here's the sermon. We were
Sermon.
wondering when it might turn up. And of course, if you do not have the light, how can you appreciate the dark? So it's a sort of little nugget of virtue to give inclination and lust a little bit of a rest, because lust has been going in his two parts constantly, pretty much. He's very rarely been off stage apart from to change. So this is the first little mini break that I think he gets. Inclination has been busy, but not quite as busy because he wasn't on straight away at the top. But they get a little bit of a rest while this occurs in a sort of structural sense. Any additional thoughts about that little nuggetette?
No.
Well, it's very calming, isn't it? It's very kind of appropriate for the era as well. And again, like you say, it's that balancing out of the chaos of the fools and the tricksters to this serene, as things ought to be sort of scenario, like the moral versus immoral again. It's really nicely done, actually.
And yes, it's a change of pace that maybe the audience actually appreciates, or in fact some part of the audience would prefer after all the hijinks that we've had.
I like, Trust's last speech is really nice, that where Trust actually talks to people, to even if it's like, oh, if you're poor, just trust that things will be okay. But yeah, I think as theater, this would take some doing. You'd need some kind of special effects to make this work, and not just have everything grind to a halt for a whole scene.
It is that suggestion that the audience for this contains multitudes, that it does contain, whoever is perhaps if it is a household performance, that you'll have those at the high table, and then you have all the other people further down the pecking order, and they all get a little bit to each of them. So yeah, I think that's right. It's difficult to have an audience today which is so verified in that sense. You know, apart from the cheap seats and those rattling the jewellery.
It's kind of street theatre, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the expectation, really.
A lot of morality plays are. I wanted to flag up one more thing, which is that the stage directions specify that trust is plainly dressed, and that contentation has a crown, which, with the visual representation of virtues, you often see that. Indeed, risking the duck again, my crown is called content, a crown it is that seldom kings enjoy.
That's an interesting thought. She have a crown. Is contentation a she as well?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
It's not noted as being so in the thing. Trust is explicitly noted as, and treasure is explicitly noted as. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just talking about what parts are explicitly said. I'm just wondering whether that's
in the stage direction. It says contentation. She have a crown.
Yeah, but it might be that follows on from trust a woman. It might be that the stage direction is badly written. Do we have an indication of who actually has anyone done anything with the crown to narrow that down?
I think it hasn't been mentioned in the text.
So we'll leave that open for the moment because it might be a weird juxtaposition.
I think but keep your ears open as you go through drama of this period for things about contentment being a crown.
Oh yeah. I think it's a good point to note for the future. Any other thoughts? No. Then let us carry on. Inclination enters laughing.
Lust, coffee, now in faith he is lusty. Lady Treasure and he have made a match. He thinketh that I were marvellous trusty, because I teach him to claw, to catch. Nowadays amity doth therein consist. He that can flatter shall be well beloved. But he that saith thus and thus, saith Christ, shall as an enemy be openly reproved. Friendship, yea, friendship consisteth now in adulation. Speak fair and please the lust of thy Lord, I warrant thee, be had in great estimation, when those that tell truth shall be abhorred. Ah, unhappy linguer, whither wilt thou run? Take heed, I advise thee, lest thou shalt be shent, if you chance to tell any tales of these gentle women. With flesh hooks and nails you are like to be rent. Nay, with the passion of me, be not so moved, I will please you, incontinent again. Above all treasures, you are worthy to be loved, because you do no men deride, nor disdain. You do not contemn the simple and poor. You be not high-minded, proud, and presumptuous, neither wanton nor wily. You be nevermore, but gentle, loving, modesty, and virtuous. Behold our like, and please some folks diet, or pacify their minds marvellous well. All hist, I warrant ye, so they be in quiet. How to please you hereafter, now I can tell. Hark, I hear lust and my lady treasure. They're given to solace, singing, and pleasure.
Enter lust and treasure, a woman finely apparelled.
Ah, amorous lady, with beautiful face, thou art heartily welcome into this place. My heart is inclined to thee, lady treasure. My love is insatiate, it keepeth no measure.
Ooh, who is treasure?
It is I, Master Lust, that will you advance. Treasure it is that things doth enhance. Upon me set your whole affection and lust, and pass not a point for the ways of the just. Treasure is a pleasure, bear that in mind. Both trusty and true you shall me always find.
As trusty as a quick eel by the tail. Oh, Lady Treasure, welcome without fail. Be better acquainted with you once, I trust, but I dare not in the presence of my master Lust.
Ye are welcome, sir, heartily. What, be of good courage. Drawer, let us have a pint of white wine and borage.
Wherefore? I pray thee tell.
Marry, we think you are not well.
Not well? Who can a better life crave than to possess such a lady as I have? Is there any wealth not contained in treasure? Ah, lady, I love thee, in faith, out of measure.
It is out of measure indeed, as you say. Even so, most men love her at this day. She is a minion of amorous hue, her peer in my days, yet I never knew. Oh, quoth you, I am an old maid, I tell ye. Never laugh at the matter, for doubtless I smell thee. She passeth Juno, Ceres, and Pallas, more beautiful than ever Dame Venus was. Althea in sapience she doth exceed, and Diana in dignity, of whom we do read. What should fair Helen once named be? She excelleth all these, Master Lust, believe me.
How say you, is not this an eloquent lad?
That you have such a servant, truly I am glad.
Now indeed I cannot you blame, for women of all degrees are glad of the same. They that flatter and speak them fair shall be their sons, and peradventure their heir.
You told me of a brother you had, Lady Treasure.
Yea, sir, that I have. His name is called Pleasure. And seeing you enjoy me now at your will, right soon I am sure he will come you until.
Truly, of him I would fain have a sight, for because that in pleasure I have marvellous delight.
Then, honesty and profit, you may bid good night.
What sayest thou?
I say he will shortly appear in sight. I know by his singing the same is he, the misbegotten Orpheus, I think that he be.
Just briefly pause there, so that yes, there's that aside is obviously for, supposed to be next to Lust's line rather than at the bottom of Inclination. So we have now entering Pleasure singing this song.
Oh, happy days and pleasant plays, wherein I do delight. I do pretend till my life's end to live still in such polite.
Master Pleasure, I perceive you to be of good cheer.
What inclination, old lad, art thou here?
Yes, sir, and Lady Treasure, your sister also.
Body of me, then unto her I will go. What, sister, I am glad to meet with you here.
Welcome unto me, mine own brother dear. Master Lust, this is my brother of whom I told. He is pleasant and lusty, as you may behold.
Gentlemen, I pray you, is your name Master Pleasure?
Yea, sir, and I am brother to Lady Treasure.
And are you contented to accompany me?
Whereas she is resident, I must needs be. Treasure doth pleasure commonly precede, but the one is with the other, they have both so decreed.
Marry, now you are well indeed, Master Lust. This is better, I trow, than the life of the just. They be compelled to possess contentation, having no treasure, but trust of salvation. But my lady or mistress, my mistress, I would say, she worketh, you may see, to keep you from decay.
Oh, madam, in you is all my delight, and in your brother, pleasure, both day and night. The trial of treasure this is indeed. I perceive that she is a true friend at need, for I have proved her, according as Thales doth say, and I perceive that her beauty cannot decay.
Always with you I will be resident, so that your life shall be most excellent.
Yea, sir, and me pleasure also you shall have, so that none other thing there needeth to crave. I will replenish your heart with delight, and I will always be with treasure in sight. But if you desire me to enjoy me at your will, my sister you must have in reputation still. And then, as her treasure is certain and excellent, my pleasure shall be both perfect and permanent. Credit not those, sir, that talk that and this, saying that in two consisteth no bliss. But let experience your mind ever move, and see if all men us too do not love.
Well, yes, indeed. They love you indeed, without a doubt, which shutters some of them God's kingdom without. They love you so well that their God they do hate, as time has declared to us, even of late. But either on such things his study shall cast, shall be sure to be deceived at the last.
What dost thou say?
Of treasure,
What dost thou
forsooth.
say?
Of treasure, forsooth, ye must ever hold fast. For if you should chance to lose, lady, treasure, then farewell in post, this gentleman, pleasure.
My love to them both cannot be expressed, and especially, my lady, you I love best.
If you love me as you do profess, be sure you shall want no kind of wealthiness.
And if you have wealthiness at your own will, then will I pleasure remain with you still.
You are both as constant as snow in the sun, which from snow to water through melting doth run. But worldly wise men cannot conceive of that. To hunt for such mice, they learn of the cat.
My lady is amorous and full of flavour. Sorry, favour. bit too lusty there, sorry.
Pile it on. I can take it.
I may say to you, she hath an ill-favoured savour.
What sayest thou?
I say she is loving and of gentle behaviour.
And so I will continue still, be you sure.
And I in like case, whilst your life doth endure.
Ah, trusty treasure, pleasant pleasure. All wealth I possess now without measure, and seeing that the same shall firmly remain to help me sing a song, will you take the pain?
Even with all my heart, begin when you will.
To it, I will either help or stand still.
And sing this song. It suggests that Lust is the one singing this song. In your own time.
That was a very French note there. Am I not in blessed case, treasure and pleasure to possess? I would not wish no better place, if I may still have wealthiness, and to enjoy in perfect peace, my lady, my pleasant pleasure shall increase, my dear lady. Helen may not compared be, nor Cressida that was so bright. These cannot stain the shine of thee, nor yet Minerva of great might. Thou passest Venus far away. Lady, love thee, I will both night and day. My dear lady. My script has just completely vanished, excuse me.
Especially when it's just about to get to the rude bit.
Is that 24? Thou passes Venus, fair away, lovely. Okay. My mouse, my knobs and coney sweet, my hope and joy, my whole delight, Dame Nature may fall at thy feet, and may yield to thee her crown of right. I will thy body now embrace, lady, and kiss thy sweet and pleasant face, my dear lady.
Thank you. Very, very, very early David Bowie there.
Excellent.
Could have trembled more.
Especially as a coney rabbit could have, as pointed out the other day, could be perhaps more more cunny. There's lots of. So the Lady Treasure has her treasure, which she is very makes it very clear she's not cheap. And that Lust, because he is unbridled, is going to spend all his money to get Lady Treasure and his pleasure, her brother Pleasure. It's yeah. It's
definitely got those undertones. Definitely.
Oh, it's full of very, very, very rude stuff, which is delightful.
It's funny because before that, I was starting to drift, actually, just thinking about who this might be for again, and I was thinking it's quite immature, and I wondered if it was because if you look at some of the historical references, for me, things like Helen's repeated a couple of times, Dionysus, references that a lot of people would get, we don't get so much now. Yeah, like quite well-known references for the day, which made me think perhaps, I don't know, would this be for maybe a younger audience? Is it maybe for
Ooh.
like teens to kind of like show
School
you the
kids.
right? Yeah, do you know what I mean? It just has that sense to me that perhaps we were trying to find the audience, and I wonder if it's for a juvenile one because none of those references are too obscure.
Well, it's very plausible that the performers are junior.
Hmm.
I mean, but I think the only real clue that I want to sort of hold on to is that actually that bit where you're talking to all the classes and all the potential people in the audience, that maybe that we're thinking too hard about who's it for, and potentially it's for everyone.
It's a family show.
It's not a family show, but I don't think they considered some of those things because there is a moral purpose to warn people against these things on some level. But though, to be honest, I don't think this is trying that hard. Any other thoughts about that in terms of where this is pitching? Because it's all gonna change any second now. I paused at a very dramatic moment. Any thoughts on that, Stephen? Are you in terms of what we think? Because it's sort of if we think it's 1560s somewhere in there, it's an area I don't really know very much about.
I think there might have been an active boys' company around that time. I think there was a Paul's Boys going around in those days.
Yeah,
So,
there's a reference to St. Paul's really early in the play, so that would fit.
Yeah. Because as I say, we've got this sort of expansion of potential playing companies and the scope of the thing that they're doing. But as I say, this sort of gap before the big playhouses open, we've got various playing spaces that are doing semi-regular shows, but it's not quite as tethered to the court or to other activities as it was with some of the stuff we've been doing earlier. So it's sort of not quite sure what this is, and that's quite interesting. Because I don't think it actually matters. Because I don't think the author really knows what it is. I really get this impression that it's of a genre, but the genre itself is starting to fall apart. I don't know if I'm overstating that. And I'd be delighted if people in watching this video would like to comment and elucidate, because I'm trying to ask questions rather than necessarily pose answers. Which, with the absence of a proper dating, it's quite difficult to play with. Shall we crack on to the end?
Yeah.
Because we have now a visitation. We have the appearance of God's visitation. So you're all having fun. You're singing. You're about to go off and have some pleasure with Lady Treasure.
Just like God to ruin that, isn't it?
Having pleasure with Lady Treasure's treasure, and then enter God's visitation.
I am God's minister, called Visitation, which divers in many ways you may understand. Sometime I bring sickness, sometime perturbation, sometime trouble and misery throughout the land. Sometime I signify God's wrath to be at hand. Sometime a forerunner of destruction imminent, but an executor of pain I am at this present. Thou incipient fool, thou hast followed thy lust, disdaining the doctrine declared by Sapience. In treasure and pleasure hath been thy trust, which thou thoughtest should remain ever in thy presence. Thou never rememberest Fowls his sentence, who willeth men in all things to keep a measure, especially in love to uncertainty of treasure. Even now I am come from visiting the just, because God beginneth first with his elect, but he is so associated and comforted with trust that no kind of impatience his soul can infect. Contentation in such sort his wraith does direct, that he is contented with God's operation, comfortably embracing me with his visitation. But now I am come to vex thee with pain, which make his treasure thy castle and rock. Thou shalt know that both she and pleasure is vain, and that the Almighty thou canst not mock. Anguish and grief into thee I do cast, with pain in thy members continually. Now thou hast pain, thy pleasure cannot last, but I will expel him incontently.
Oh, cock's heart, what a pestilence is this! Depart from me, I say, hence God's visitation. Help, help, Lady Treasure, thou goddess of bliss, at thy hands let me have some consolation.
Oh, I will remain with you, be out of doubt.
Will you be
Presently.
packing? Will you be packing, you ill-favoured lout?
Presently indeed from him thou shalt not go. And why? Because God will hath not determined so. But in time thou, treasure, shalt be turned to rust. And as for pleasure, he shall now attend on the just.
God's wounds, these pangs increase evermore.
My little finger is spitefully sore. You will not believe how my heel doth ache.
Nay, let me alone, your part I will take. Be of good comfort while I here remain, for pleasure and he shall be parted in twain.
It is not meet that he should be participate with lust, but rather virtuous, godly, and just.
Remain with me still, Master Pleasure, I say.
Oh nay, there is no remedy, I must away. For where God doth punition and pain, I pleasure in no case cannot remain.
I could in like case separate thy treasure, but God doth admonish thee by losing thy pleasure.
Go out, visitation and pleasure.
Farewell in the devil's name, old lousy lout. Thy master will die, I stand in great doubt. Oh! How is it with you, Master Lust?
By the flesh of Goliath, yet treasure is my trust. Though pleasure be gone and I live in pain, I doubt not that treasure will fetch him again.
Yea, that I will, fear not, and with you remain.
The property of rich men undoubtedly he hath, which think with money to pacify God's wrath, and health at their pleasure to buy and to sell. How is Master Lust? Are you anything well?
Against this visitation, my heart doth rebel. God's wounds, shall I still in these pangs remain?
Fear you not, Master Lust, I will help you again. Treasure in physic exceedeth Galenus. Tush, there is no physician but we shall have with us. To the ease of your body they will you bring. And therefore I pray you despair in no thing. Put your trust always in me, Lady Treasure, and I will restore you again unto pleasure. For I am the goddess that therein hath power, which shall remain perfect unto the last hour.
Yea, yea, Master Lust, be as merry as you may. Let treasure be your trust, whoever say nay.
Enter time.
The ancient Greeks have called me Kronos, which in our vulgar tongue signifieth time. I am entered in presently for a certain purpose, even to turn treasure to rust and to slime, and lust, which hath long disdained the just, ensuing his filthy and vile inclination, shall immediately be turned to dust, to the example of all the whole congregation. For time bringeth both these matters to pass, and experience hath taught in every age, and you shall behold the same in this glass, as a document both profitable and sage. Both lust and treasure come forth with speed into the shop of the most mighty God. There shall you be beaten to powder indeed, and for your ablution feel his scourge and rod.
By St. Mary, then they have made a wise match. I pretend, therefore, to leap over the hatch. Let me depart, sir. Stop me not, I say, for I must remain, though both these decay.
And he goes out.
Lust from the beginning frequented hath been, and shall I now turn to nothing for thee?
Treasure in all ages hath been beloved, and shall she from the earth by thee be removed?
And this is time. It's not properly paginated.
All right. You know that all such things are subject to time. Therefore, me to Therefore me to withstand is no reason nor rhyme. For like as all things in time their beginning had, so must all things in time vanquish and fade.
Gog's wounds, let treasure remain still with me.
Yea, let me continue still in my dignity.
Nay, I must carry you into Vulcan's fire, where you shall be tried unto the uttermost, seeing lust against trust it did daily conspire. To dust he shall turn for all his great boast. Both of you shall have one rigorous host. Come therefore with speed, time cannot tarry. To the end of your felicity I will you carry.
If there be no remedy, then there is no shift.
He must needs go that is driven by the devil's drift. Ah, Cock's precious sides, what fortune is this? Whither go I now, to misery or bliss?
And lust exits. What is Time's
Bit of a
precise beef with treasure? I wasn't quite following that. I'm not quite sure what Time is. I understand entirely what's going on with the visitation that we had earlier, which is sort of very, and God appears and is angry.
Is it an agent of God, perhaps?
Yeah, it's what Time is doing is slightly different, and it seems very much aimed at treasure rather than at lust. And while pleasure was taken out by visitation.
Yes. I suppose if inclination wasn't bridled, then time would not increase your treasure but diminish it. Maybe.
Yeah, is it a kind of metaphor about beauty fading, perhaps, as well? She's
Possible.
kind of past her time.
It's
Fear of growing old.
And also the fact that treasure's taken away. I could be reading this entirely wrong, but that it could also be a potential slant that when you go to the other side, so to speak, you can't take your treasures with you.
True.
So
True.
So it may well be that treasure needs to be used elsewhere rather than be taken onto the other side, so to speak.
Because we may be taking because the question of who treasure is or who treasure represents, because in a sense, she's there to represent elements of wealth as well as the sexual side of things, and that sort of slightly tortured metaphor, simile, what you will, could be played in several ways. I think I am a little lost precisely at what specific angles of these vices are playing at. It's
Well, okay. I think when visitation shows up, I mean, visitation is the act of God, as it were, the affliction that God visits you with. And in this case, there's a strong case for it being venereal disease of some kind, or some kind of chronic illness that puts lust in pain. So now he has wealth but no pleasure. And presumably, then with time, he would have to spend all his wealth on doctors and on treatments. That's what treasure says. We'll have all the physicians, we'll have all the medicines.
Turn treasure to rust and to slime, which is interesting. Yes, because we do have that wonderful line which we didn't flag up earlier when a visitation comes in and grief and anguish into thee I do cast, with pain in thy members continually. And I thought, that can't be too literal, can it? No, it can. It really can.
It turns out, looks like.
Painful.
No pleasure and certainly no performance. So yeah, it's really interesting. These sort of additional plagues sort of raining down and taking all the fun out of lust's life bit by bit.
It's a total buzzkill, that whole section, isn't it?
Yeah, visitation is a total buzzkill.
Yeah, it really is. It's just, and impotence. There we are. And unpleasant discharge. Yes. So you could almost play that for laughs, but I don't think you should.
Well, time and visitation are really well written. They've got some really nice lines. So.
I think time is death as well, isn't it? Those was said before.
Yeah. Well,
As a
it doesn't matter what we have in pleasures in this life. We've all got one thing to look forward to, and in time that will come to all of us.
Yeah. And the awareness of time takes the fun out of life. You know, if you are aware that time is passing and that you're not going to be young forever, that is a thing. Let us conclude, however. Lust has just exited. He's exited for a very good reason, that he's going to come back on in a moment as Consolation. So, Simon, you're reading Consolation.
Okay, sure.
So that you're little prepared. However, our good friend Inclination comes back in again, and his bridle, it's been shackled. So enter Just, not seen for quite a while now, leading Inclination in his bridle shackled.
Where the horse is, I say. I would the rein were loose, that I might run away.
Nay, sith thou wilt not spare against me to rebel, I will not spare, by God's grace, thee to bridle. All men may see how vile inclination spareth not to put the just to vexation. Even so may all men learn of me again thy beastly desires to bridle and restrain.
Marry, sir, I am bridled indeed, as you say, and shackled, I think, for running away. This snaffle is sharp indeed for the nonce, and these shackles do chafe my legs to the bones. And yet I will provoke, spurn and prick, rebel, repugn, lash out and kick.
In the jade's name are ye so fresh? This year, I suppose, will pluck down your flesh. Nay, soft thou shalt have a little more pain. For somewhat shorter now I will tie thy rein.
Most blessed and happy, I say, are the just, even because they restrain their own inclination. Thou, therefore, that hast made thy treasure of trust, behold, I have brought thee here consolation.
Now blessed be God of his mercy and grace, with all my heart and soul I do you embrace.
Consolation is my name, even as trust hath said. Which is joy or comfort in this life transitory? He that possesseth me, is of nothing afraid, but hath a most quiet and peaceable memory. For I, through trust, doth show thee the glory that God hath prepared for them beforehand, wherein at the last they shall perfectly stand.
Receive this crown of felicity now at this space, which shall be made richer at the celestial place.
My lady, I would I had such a gay crown.
Now praised be God for this riches of renown, felicity in this world the just doth enjoy.
Namely, when that the devil cannot them annoy.
The world's work is this is, who shall be praised for ever. I'll take that one again. The Lord's work this is, who be praised forever, who grant us in his laws still to persever.
Amen. Amen. God give us delight in this holy covenant, both day and night.
Our matter is almost brought to an end, saving that inclination in prison must be shut. Just carry him forth that useth to contend, and see that surely enough he be put.
This shall be done shortly by God's grace.
Oh, soft, I say, methink ye go a shameful pace. Was there ever poor colt thus handled before? Fie upon it. My legs be unreasonably sore. Oh, yet I will rebel. Yea, and rebel again, though 1,000 times you shouldst me restrain.
And they lead Inclination out. Enter Time with a similitude of dust and rust, as mentioned earlier.
Behold here how lust is converted into dust. This is his image, his wealth and prosperity, and treasure in like case is turned to rust, whereof this example showeth the verity. The trial of treasure, this is no doubt, that all men take heed that trust in the same, considering what things time bring about, and quench out the ungodly, their memory and fame.
Enter Just.
Why? And is lust and treasure convert to this?
Yea, forsooth.
What foolish men in them would put trust, if this be the final end of their bliss? Much better I commend the life of the just.
So it is, no doubt, for they have consolation, possessing felicity even in this place. I mean, through trust and hope of salvation, which setteth out to us God's mercy and grace.
Let all men consider this good erudition, and not to put confidence in lust nor treasure. By these two examples receive admonition, and also the sudden banishment of pleasure.
Remember that time turneth all things about. Time is the touchstone, the just for to try. But whereas lust and treasure in time is come to naught, just possessing truth remaineth constantly. So that as I, time, have revealed their infamy, so have I showed the consolation and gain, that the just shall receive that justly do vain.
We will now no longer trouble this audience, sith somewhat tedious to you we have been, beseeching you to bear all things with patience, and remember the examples that you have seen. God grant them to flourish lively and green, that some of us the better therefore may be. Amen, amen. I beseech the blessed Trinity. Pray for all estates. Take heed in time, and note this well, be ruled always by counsel. Learn of the just to lead thy life, being free from envy, wrath, and strife, presumption, pride, and covetousness, with all other ungodliness. Learn of them always to obey the Lord's precepts from day to day, that thou mayest walk as he doth will, and labour thy fond affects to kill. Always subdue thy beastly lust, and in the Lord put hope and trust. Bridle thine inclination by godly conversation. The counsel of the wise embrace, the fool's advice do then deface, which fast and pray with good delight, that Adam may be killed quite, that joy in us may still increase, that God the Lord may give us peace, that we may be content with trust to have our crown among the just.
And thus it ends. I suspect when you say pray for all estates, I suspect that's a heading, and that what follows is your prayer to all the estates,
Okay.
and the estates of the various class systems that we have at the time.
Yeah.
Again, suggesting that perhaps this is a very mixed audience that might be expected here.
Oh, you're right. It's B, Trinity, well, counsel, yeah.
Yeah, because it feels like the play properly ends at the Blessed Trinity, and then you've got this sort of bonus blessing to everyone about extra time. So time enters, and lust does make a reappearance at the end as a handful of dust, and treasure makes a reappearance as a handful of rust. And so, yeah, that connection between wealth and I suppose sexual appetite is sort of that connection of the two things. Everything falls apart. I did wonder for a second if Consolation was actually just lust renamed, but no, it clearly isn't. And it does go suddenly awfully very reminiscent of Everyman again. Just one or two of the lines are very, very similar. I think there's a sense that there are some conventional bits of dialogue that have got inherited over time that get recycled here. So that's a happy ending.
So play of two halves, isn't it? Jeez.
Yeah, the lust turns to dust, and everything's pointless so long unless you pray to God and you get saved. Otherwise, your time on earth is just yeah. Good night, everyone. Have a safe journey home, and
I'll smite you
have
later.
Nightmares.
Yeah.
Okay. General thoughts about this. This is a really interesting. I really don't quite know what to make of this. It's really weird.
It's like lull them into a false sense of security. It's a bit of a laugh. We'll have a bit of fun. All we need is a bit with a dog. Oh, death. fire and brimstone. Yeah, it's almost get them enjoying themselves and then be like, no, don't enjoy life.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Religion.
it is that thing. Even when we had repentance in some of the earlier interludes, there was always a sense of everything. You know, you have a chance of redemption and everything being fine, but it seems the last few plays we've done have really laid it on thick that if you cock up, you're screwed. And
There is a link to Puritanism, perhaps.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
really does seem that's really being ramped up as we go
The
along.
just are the Puritans.
Yeah,
That they're the elect.
yeah. It's really palpable in this.
So here's a question for the room, really.
Yeah.
I have my own thoughts, but I want to hear yours. The title of the play, right?
Yeah.
In what sense is the title relevant to what happens?
Even though the title of the play gets a name check twice, I think it's twice, at least once.
I think, yeah, more than twice even.
Yeah, and yet every time it came up, I went, I'm just going to read the passage before and afterwards and see if I can get a handle on this.
Well, if we take treasure as being, you know, what it is, the treasures of life, and it's not until we get into visitation and then moving through to time that the audience must understand that time is the consequence that everyone will eventually go to, and that the treasure is on trial through their own imagination and their own being in this world.
And it's also how you use that treasure, however big or small that it is, because, you know, even the only reason why I'm saying this is because, again, throughout the text, there's a little sort of inclination where treasure herself, you know, she's basically there to be used as people see fit. Now, whether it means, you know, in the literal wealthy sense, in the sense of actually using it and spending it on everything as you will because you can't take it with you. But there's also that prospect of that privilege being abused, you know, and it does have consequences, which time does actually show.
Yeah, that treasure is tied in with pleasure, and how you use treasure is as important. It doesn't seem that treasure has an alternative nice use, as it were, in here.
Yeah. We don't hear about charity
No.
much. Even you know, in the plays we've done before, where we have personifications of what we would now call capitalism, what would people like abundance, and where they're like, oh, it's okay for me to amass all this wealth because I'll just buy myself out of it by doing charity. And the point is, no, you have to also live a good life. But none of that is even mentioned here.
And that treasure is this very finely costumed woman who then has a very quick change to be a very plainly dressed woman, Trust, who doesn't appear very long in the play, but does also have the crown. I think it was clear in the later thing that Trust gives the crown. I think that was at the end where that happened.
Well, isn't it that is there two meanings to treasure in this? That where, if you look at it from a religious point of view, that treasure could be that way of walking the way of the Lord. And if you can't see that there's two parts to this as a member of the audience or as a part of the morality play, if you only think treasure is having lots of money and wealth, and not that if you don't see that treasure could also be being pious and, as you just mentioned earlier, charitable. Isn't that for the audience to work out?
Yeah, but
I think
go, Simon.
Thanks. Yeah, I think you have to probably hop back to the kind of allegory of Catholicism being an evil, because of course that's full of idolatrousness, of possession of richness, the kind of profligacy of the church and all that. So you could, I suppose, see treasure, and of course we said about confession earlier, it pointing back to whoever said about Puritanism being a more worthy way to go. So perhaps that's really interesting. Actually, treasure in this case is obviously sexualized, but perhaps it actually is more literal than we've been thinking. So let's advocate a more pared down style of life. Suffer in this world and you'll be rewarded later, but don't ask for it now. Perhaps.
I think there is also the problem with this, because it doesn't have a central, though lust is sort of the central figure who all these things, he's also sort of an allegory of the problem rather than a neutral figure of which all these problems fight over. And I think there is a slight untidiness to what this play is doing that makes it very difficult to get a handle on who anyone really is or what they're doing, because they're all sort of interacting agents rather than agents acting upon a person that we have in other interludes that we've done. I'm just putting it out there that it's possibly it doesn't quite make sense, that there's something a bit woolly about some of the thinking. I'm just putting that out there as a possibility.
Possibly. Okay, yeah. a way to think of it. I don't know. Again, this is off the cuff because I just cold read that. I haven't had time to study it.
I don't think anyone here has really read this play before.
That the central question here appears to be, in what should you put your trust? You know, if you have material good fortune, can you rely on it? Can you you know, if you do things that make you feel good, can you rely on that and build your life around that? Can you rely on just doing what you desire to do and having the power to do what you desire to do? Or do you do the thing that is difficult in order to have something more solid to put your trust in? And I guess this links up in my mind with older uses of the word to try. You know, where time says that treasure says, you know, let me continue still in my dignity, and time says, nay, I must carry you unto Vulcan's fire, where you shall be tried unto the uttermost. To try gold was to see whether gold was pure by subjecting it to either heat or a bunch of other tests. There's a couple scenes down, there's a thing about something being a touchstone to try someone's quality, and touchstones were another way that the purity of gold was tried. So yeah, there I guess it's less the trial of treasure than the trial of humanity, if we have lust standing in for the human soul here, which you know, most of us are composed about 90% lust in any case.
Lust is trying out treasure.
Perhaps.
It's like his 14-day trial.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, this one, for me. I'm finding this really, really interesting. Just to throw in a random thing, it's interesting that at the very beginning, Lust, when talking to the audience, throws in this line to someone there going, pleasant youth and lusty Juventus, which, you know, we did that play the other day, and as a general term for youth was presumably that's a term that was more generally used for young people rather than specific, although it's used with the capitals. So I just wonder whether it's self-referencing previous plays or a catchphrase or something. I just wonder about that. That's interesting. That might be a connection that isn't there.
Could be.
Any more? I mean, it does end on a pretty grim note. After all, so much fun. I really it's the noises of the inclination. You know, when he's being bridled and he starts doing these horse noises. Is it that the bridle is somehow is this a sort of weird Pinocchio sequence? Is it Pinocchio or is it Dumbo? Which is the one where they turn into the donkey?
Oh, Pinocchio.
Yeah.
That's Pinocchio.
So
you know,
scary.
Is there something really weird happening the moment the bridle goes on him? Just the performer's thought. Or is he being sarky with that and about how these people are treating him?
Isn't there a sort of thing that goes through this play with, doesn't the Vice like ride people on their shoulder or something?
When the bridle's on him, there's a suggestion of riding, isn't there? Was that what happened? Stephen, you were the vice. Did you get ridden?
Don't think so. I mean, it's sort
There
of
was-
fucking bronco, isn't it? It's that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I thought there was an intimation when you got the bridle put on you by Just that they actually sort of ride you for a bit, or someone does. But I could be wrong there.
Well,
it would
it may
certainly
not
make
even be necessarily that. It could even just simply be that the bridle, especially as the bridle's tightened throughout that speech, it could just be simply a means of a torture to keep that person in check. Maybe.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I mean it's that crossover thing.
Yeah, although using the bridle some ways, either driving him or riding him, would make a really nice visual metaphor.
Yeah, I'm
Not
sure.
letting your inclination carry you away.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there was a bit of business in there that, or it could be made to be thus, but maybe.
It could be just simply down to the interpretation as
Yeah,
to
I'm sure
how
there was.
you want it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't see anything. He says he won't leap any hedges. Oh well, yeah. So they talk about him possibly kicking and things like that, but no, maybe we just imagined it. Maybe we just imagined it, or I imagined it. Okay, any sort of closing thoughts? Because I think we've kicked this one around a fair amount. Considering that this is a last minute substitute, I'd just like to say thank you all for reading this pretty much cold and giving it such good guns. It's been a really, really interesting experience. I intend to try and make sure that we've got a bit more slack in the system next time, so that we are able to do the one that we've all prepared, which would be lovely. Or at least if we are going to drop down, you've got a bit more notice of the probability. Any closing remarks?
I think the only thing I've really got to say is, yes, it can be on the first face of it very confusing, but if you were to put this on in today's context, so to speak, I think this could be a really interesting one dynamically to play with, as opposed to the others that we've read so far, just because there's a lot more balance, there's a lot more feistiness, and there's a little bit more of an easy balance between the different states that you have, and you can easily play with it. So yeah, I think it's the most balanced out of all of them, and it was very enjoyable to read.
It was very enjoyable to listen to as well.
Excellent.
I think to move away from my slightly more negative points, I think as a piece of theatre it works incredibly well. I just don't necessarily think that it quite ties what it's trying to say together very, very well.
I get a sense it might have been put together in a hurry. I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy it that much. Frankly.
You're allowed not to.
Thank you. Good. Don't tell me to dust, anyone.
Yeah. Any more for any more?